Hello, I am Deb Coviello, the Drop In CEO. And as always, I'm grateful you've dropped in for another episode where week after week I speak to the most amazing leaders who share their stories and insights with you. And I know they will inspire you. And just know I put out this content because I sincerely care about C suite leaders of today. And I'll say, and tomorrow, to navigate their challenges with confidence. And this week, I am delighted to have onto the show Ben Yost, who is the general manager of Yost Foods Inc. and Food Basics. And their story is that they're on a mission to provide creative ingredient solutions for food manufacturers. And I will just keep it at that and say, Ben, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Deb.
So I am excited to finally have this conversation. I've been talking to Ben for a while, and a quick shout out to Gina Tabassa, who introduced us. We are in the manufacturing sector, and I always like to speak to leaders, one, because I like to learn from them. What are the current successes and challenges and trends, but also bring their stories to you. So, Ben, I would love to pass the mic over to you so you can share a bit about yourself personally and the work that you do.
Sure. Thank you. So my name is Ben Yost. I'm a second generation food manufacturer. And actually, coincidentally, just in the last week, I have officially become the CEO. So now I'm true to the title of your podcast, which is,
Congratulations. I'm so excited. Keep
thank
going.
you. I mean, it's a title. It's not necessarily any responsibility changes, but that's just kind of neat. So anyways, my name is Ben Yost. I run a food manufacturing company. We do ingredients for other manufacturers. My background, I've been in every department here. I have an operations and supply chain degree. Um, we are based in Cleveland, Ohio. Um, yeah, what specifically, I don't know what type of information people would like to hear about or
Yeah.
those things.
Well, there's so much in that because again, it was like fast forward, I became the CEO, and that's Ben Yost. It's like I always love to go a little bit deeper, but I did notice in your profile that you had gotten a supply chain and operations degree. But had you back then known you would have a place in the business? I'm just curious.
No, that's a good question. So, I can say I've been working for my dad for 35 years, whether it was picking up sticks in the yard or anything like that. I understood what getting the job done meant. So throughout the history of him building this company, I was always fascinated in the operations and then the production, the creation of things. Um, Even in my early teens, touring different facilities, throughout the country that my dad was selling to or representing or any of those things. I was always fascinated in how different things got produced. So when I went to school, I was like, well, I like manufacturing. I like seeing how things are done. Not necessarily explicitly related to this company, um, but just the general manufacturing space was very interesting to me. So yeah, there wasn't there, it was kind of in the back of your mind is like there is this thing that a lot of kids or mid to late teens don't have to consider when they're deciding a major or a life path. Um, so yeah, it wasn't necessarily a strong consideration that this is where I'm going to end up, but it did
Then,
certainly influence what I wanted to study and learn more about.
so then what were the breadcrumbs that slowly brought you in closer and closer to where you're at now?
Um, After college, I didn't have a job and I was working in production here. My parents bought a very expensive ERP program, and I said, "Hey, that's pretty close to my major. Let me implement this from the company side, and I'll build my resume. I'll go somewhere else. I'll do my own thing, but this would look really good in my resume." And then as I was digging into that, because I'd really been familiar with production and warehouse and shipping, receiving, and things like that. But as I got more familiar with sales and accounting and procurement, I was like, wow, there's a lot of opportunity. There's a ton of opportunity here. And that really kind of, those were the breadcrumbs that kind of led me to investigating more. And I remember I left a sticky note on my dad's desk saying, okay, I'm in. And he was like, well, that's perfect because I need some help.
Do you
And
still
that,
have that sticky note?
my dad has mentioned, he's like, I really, really wish I would have kept that sticky note. So no, it's not there, but the story still exists.
Oh
Um,
my God, I'm in. And I'm wondering, did he purposely suggest, oh, let's work on my ERP system as a hope and a wish that you may actually pursue this? Or again, just by chance? I was wondering because like, did he ever even talk to you about taking over the business or coming in?
he had so I like to think that that was his strategy, that it was more thoughtful than that. But my dad's a true entrepreneur. He sees something that he thinks should be done, and figures out a way to do it. So I don't know if that was the case, but it certainly is nice to think about it that way, as if it was a way to really show what was there. But it wasn't like he was strong arming me or trying to strongly influence me throughout my life or even after school. It was largely just, hey, these are the opportunities. But it was that ERP involvement,
Mm.
um, that really opened my eyes to it.
Very cool.
So,
And just one more moment, just to honor your family's legacy of starting this business, and then we'll fast forward into the work you've been doing. But what is the origin of like, the idea, the entrepreneurial spirit? What problem was he solving, or accident that happened that wound up turning into a business?
yeah, that's a good question. Well, I think my dad had started a few businesses, like a landscaping business, like an insulation business, like in college and things like that. After he got out of the Marines, I think he was pretty determined to not work for someone else, which he ended up doing. But so he started a couple businesses. He went to Ohio State for food technology, I believe, because he likes cooking, he likes gardening, he likes growing things, and he was very interested in that space. So to skip a few steps, he ended up working for Nestle right here in our backyard in Cleveland, in quality assurance, and then purchasing or procurement, and then he wanted to kind of branch out and do his own thing, and so he started this company, Yost Foods, as a brokerage, so representing other manufacturers, folks like Warren Frozen Foods, um, PTX, and Kikkoman soy sauce. Those are some of the more familiar names. So Kikkoman, everyone really knows it, from the bottles and the restaurants. And I guess the quickest segue between how the business started and where we are now is, a customer came to my dad who was currently buying Kikkoman soy sauce and said, "Hey, can you do a lemongrass infused soy sauce, or can Kikkoman do that?" Kikkoman said no, and I think this is a really really important inflection point and representative of our core values. When Kikkoman said no, my dad had a decision, and that was, okay, do I just pass that along to the customer and move on to the next project, or do I try to figure out something? And what he decided to say was, Kikkoman's not going to do it, but I can give it a try. So right down the road here in the kitchen I grew up in, he created this lemongrass infused soy sauce sample, um, submitted it to Nestle. And this was, back in the days where a spec, a sample, and a price was pretty much all you needed to get a product approved. So they approved it and placed an order for a truckload. And he was a broker. He was working in the garage at the house I grew up in. And he was basically like, "Oh crap, I need to figure out how to make this." And he made it, and the proceeds of that product line, um, built the building that we're in now. And we've expanded a couple times, but that's kind of the origin story of how we got into manufacturing in that kind of custom development space.
So, I mean, that's singing to my heart. And also, I too, after working in corporate for a little bit longer, never wanted to go back and said, let me give this a go. And it is a challenge, you know what your core competency is, but you live for that day, for that oh crap moment to say, now I've got to really, really perform. But also kudos to him for saying yes and believing in himself, even I'm sure there was a little bit of uncertainty, and then the rest is history. Let that be a reminder to all the people out there that have a scarcity mindset that say no because they don't think they can be successful in favor of saying yes. And here we are.
I mean, that's absolutely it. He didn't know how he was going to do it. He just trusted that he could figure it out. And he did.
That's so inspiring right now because I'm going through a couple changes right now. I'm trying out a couple new things and I'm going all in. And I don't know if it's going to have the impact, but the process of trying to figure it out is so, so cool. Okay. So When you and I first met, you were general manager and now you're CEO. You said nothing changed, but I'm curious, like what changes in the business relationship now? Because again, I think your father is still involved in the business to some extent and what you have. So maybe just tell us a little bit about his role and your role now.
Well, I think simply put, I do all the things that he doesn't want to do anymore. And that covers a broad range of stuff. One example, he went out to one of our customers on the West Coast just this week, and he hasn't traveled for work in a long time. There was a production problem in the plant, our customer's plant, with our product, and I we are in our SQF unannounced audit window, so I'm kind of grounded,
Yep.
staying here to help coordinate that. And I said, "Hey, Dad, we've got this issue. I know you really enjoy these types of, or you're very competent at these types of addressing these problems." So he hopped on a plane in 2 days and resolved the problem at the plant. So his is a little more his responsibilities or accountabilities are a little more tactical, like those things that he really likes being in the plant. He likes getting in front of customers. He's really good at these types of things. Like the SQF audit, that's something that he would hands off. He would get the right people to coordinate them, but that's not his bag. Um, so yeah, SQF falls into the bucket of everything else. And yeah.
So I'm curious to what extent, now that, it's a family business, and I'm sure, how do you manage the family relationship versus the business relationship? How do you blend those or keep those separate?
That's a good question. I have heard a lot of people who've made it like a hard and fast rule, like we do not talk about work outside of work, and that's never been the case for us. I mean, simply put, it's to prioritize the family over everything. There's been a couple times where not a couple times, one time where I was like, Dad, my relationship with you is too important to argue about this. Let's sell the company. It's not, I don't, we'll all be fine. Um, and we didn't do that. But that example just really shows the prioritization of the family. It's like it's not worth, and it was a relatively petty argument. And I think any person who works in a family business can understand that most arguments are relatively petty in the grand scheme of things. And especially with two young kids, now it gives me a new perspective on, the importance of family and this business. So it's really not a challenge. It's, once that priority is crystal clear, and if everything filters through that priority, then it's easy to navigate any challenge.
You bring up a really important point, whether it's again family, business, et cetera, is having guiding principles. I have found when I have dropped into organizations that are a little chaotic and people are making incorrect decisions or people are questioning and micromanaging decision making, it's when we haven't established our core values and guiding lights. It causes that chaos. But to your point, you've established family first, business second, make it work. That makes things simple,
Mhm.
much simpler. So kudos to you for doing that and making it work. So I'd love to shine a light a little bit more though on the business that you have. So again, food, you service the food industry, food ingredients. Tell us a little bit more about the products or solutions that you provide, because again, it's for me. I know a lot of people and I know I got a lot of listeners from the food and flavor industry. So tell us a little bit more about the work that you do.
Sure. So some of the products that we actually manufacture, they can be anything from a seasoning blend to a dry sauce powder to finished sauce or a sauce concentrate. We're kind of all across the board in terms of dries and wets and those types of things. So we're selling to other manufacturers, and a lot of the problems that manufacturers have to do with, clean label initiatives or cost and use is a big thing. So that's where concentrated sauces, concentrated flavor systems, I guess you could say, come into play. There's examples where there's like a famous retail hot sauce that the manufacturer makes 100 million pounds a year. And our customer needs 200,000 pounds of a organic version. And the manufacturer says, okay, we don't do that. The original manufacturer, we don't do that. And we're not going to change our processes. We're not going to change our systems for, 200,000 pounds a year. And we will, for sure. So that we can not only turn that from like a retail or food service package into a more industrial package, pails, drums, totes, pouches, whatever. We can also make it more clean label. We can make it organic, non-GMO, vegan if that's a requirement. Those types of considerations. I mean, that's kind of a microcosm, and that's more detailed because we're getting a better packaging, we're getting better throughput at our customer's operation, we're getting a clean label target. Hopefully, we're getting a lower cost and use. There's a lot of details there, but something as simple as cost savings as well, or new product ideation.
Mm.
We've got a pretty stout R&D group here, a mix of food science and culinary. Um, and that's just a ton of fun working through that. So it's really those types of operational challenges. Yeah.
What I like about what I'm hearing here is that, again, I've had the good fortune of working for some larger flavor companies, and you enjoy the luxury of having sophisticated ERP systems. IT's just over there if you happen to have a problem, and you can make lots and lots and lots of product. But it's sometimes not so agile. You have to go through certain steps and processes, which is also built to kind of protect the business due to complexity. However, I really like the small and medium sized companies. And as you guys, and as those entities are maturing and getting more and more sophisticated processes, but in that process, at the core, you've got this agile, I believe, agile way of doing things. To your point, when a customer says, "Can you?" and somebody says, "No, we can't," and then you say, "Yes, I can." Again, that value of we'll find a way to service this and be able to make it happen. So appreciate that about the work you do at your company.
Sure. My dad was asked a question, and he loves bringing this up, and he told the customer, he said, "Yes, we can't." And then
Oh,
he was like,
love it.
"Oh, that's not great." But
Yeah, but there's always a yes in there because even out of a no, I am learning myself, if not now, when? If no, what could we change that could be a yes or possibility? I don't like no.
yeah,
I like other possibilities. So talk to me a little bit more about the people in your company. Again, I you have a note in your bio here that really stood out to me. You said that again, young family care about family deeply, but you also have individuals in your care that trust you to make the right decisions and get the business right. Tell me a little bit more about that culture size of your company as you can, because it's really important to keep a certain foundation there. So tell me about a little bit more about the people.
yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I don't remember filling out that bio, but that's what I think about every day. I'm the owner, and I'm a father of two young boys and a husband, and every day I need to decide, okay, how much time should I put in at work, and how much time should I put in at home? Like I have to make that decision every day, because in our seats, you're never like, oh, okay, I have done all my work for the day.
No.
Just I'm deciding not to do anymore. It's never done. And it's really challenging with an awesome family and an awesome group of people. I mean, it's a good problem to have because whichever decision you make, you're going to end up with really good people. So
Answer that. So I want to shift gears a little bit. And I know that you really, really care about family and you care about the people that you work with. And one of the things in your bio was that you've got more than 35, 40 individuals who are trusting me to do everything I can to maintain and grow the business and support their family. So tell me a little bit more about that.
sure. Yeah, I was actually thinking about that exact scenario recently, well after I submitted that bio. And it's a challenge because each day I need to decide how much time I'm going to spend at work and how much I'm going to spend at home. There's not a boss telling me, "Hey, you can leave at 5 or you can leave at 4 or once this is done, you can leave." I need to make that decision every day, and it's a good problem to have because I get to be with my family, who I love very much, or with the people I work with every day, who I also care about very much. It's just tough to make that decision every day. It takes energy. The people we have here are the best people we've ever had. We are in our SQF audit window and preparing for that. It's just been really remarkable to see everyone step up and do whatever needs to be done without any poor attitudes or anything like that. Maybe the weather turning makes people's attitudes a little bit better, but we have spent a couple years really getting the right people in the right seats and you know, top to bottom, especially at 35 to 40 people, um, everyone needs to work with everyone most days, more or less. And looking at that and seeing all these challenges that come up, just everyday challenges in any company, or a manufacturing company specifically, being addressed thoughtfully and with respect between departments has been really remarkable to see.
Yeah, and that's really, really important as a leader in that, some organizations that perhaps have a legacy of command and control, people will have to go up to the president or CEO for decision making, and people are not allowed or don't feel they have the capability. But I get a sense that you hold everybody accountable for making those decisions given guiding principles, and only the most urgent or important things might bubble up to you. So it sounds like that's the way you guys are operating, right?
Well, that's the goal. It's kind of challenging to thread the needle, but or walk the tightrope, whatever the appropriate analogy is, to say, okay, make all these decisions, but here's the exact threshold where you need to raise your hand and say that this is out of your waters or something like that. But that's just being accommodating and trusting that the people you have are effective and can make that consideration and to be relatively conservative about it and influence that or encourage that to say, okay, I think this is the right thing, but let me just make sure. Um, and that comes with the culture and making sure that if you've got the right people, they kind of inherently understand what those thresholds are and can make the decisions appropriate to their departments or to their level and ask questions when they're kind of out of their waters.
So that's a beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful foundation. And I hope you continue success. I've found some leaders that start getting to that 50 people, 75 people, lose that connectivity and a little bit of that culture. Hopefully, and it does sound like you will be able to continue that as you grow and get more of the right people on the bus. But I'd love to know a little bit about what makes you stronger. And I don't know whether a story about success and say, okay, I've got this, or a particular challenge that you've had to go through that you and the team have learned a lot that have also made you stronger.
Yeah, so I think success is very hard for me to look back on because if something succeeds, it's like, well, that's just what's supposed to happen. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I find it difficult to like stake a flag in those types of scenarios. Um, but so I think challenges are the best um, scenarios to identify what's made you stronger or what has proven that the work you've done has been worthwhile.
I like that.
Um, we had a foreign material issue at the end of a production run that came from a raw material was our investigation.
Mm.
Um, and, at the end of the day, it's manufacturing, it's hard work. It would have been very easy for somebody to say, hey, let's pretend we don't see this and, call it a day and move on. And that didn't happen. And the person who made this call knew that there was going to be a major investigation. Probably most, if not all of their day would be wasted. And they still put their hand up and said, "Hey, this isn't right. I'm not comfortable releasing this." So we ended up throwing the whole day of production out, all the raw material associated with that lot, based on our investigation, not just based on the call out. And that was a pain. Was a pain in the butt, but when you look back on it, you could not be more proud of your team to say, "Hey, this is the right thing to do." And our customers who were upset that we had to delay a delivery date, I like to think at the end of the day are appreciative of us as a supplier because who knows who could be supplying this item um, that doesn't have this food safety culture, that doesn't have this culture where it encourages people to speak up. What is the whiplash or like bullwhip effect down the line of this getting into the industrial space or the more at the consumer level? So when I see those types of things, this was a major issue that just made me very, very happy because it shows that our emphasis over the years, our training, the people that we brought in here are are looking out for us, our customers, and the end consumer's best interest. So that's an example of okay,
It's
we're on the right path.
it's actually a celebration. It's a testament to the culture, the accountability, the trust in your people. And despite the immediate pain, you have long-term brand loyalty with your customers as well as your employees as well. So truly a great story. And I feel the pain. I mean, it being also a quality and food safety professional, having people in my care make that call really tough despite the pressure. But at the end of the day, I know I can sleep at night. And my customer also said, thank you. We would have done the same thing. So it pays to do the right thing. And the last thing I want to cover with you, because it's not just about the people, family, and the business itself, but it's also about community. And I believe you also emphasize having a service mindset, and serving your community is also really strong. So give me an example a little bit about how you or the company are in service to the community.
Yeah, well, like so when we were developing our core values, it was really a reflection on what values we had that got us here. And it's not like we're not a nonprofit. We are trying to make a buck or two. Um, but we realized that there was a lot of giving back that happened in the company. So just one example, there's a youth baseball program local in the area that we donated money to. They had some theft issues,
Mm,
and they were kind of desperate. And it was like, okay, yes, I met with some of the people. I grew up 2 miles from the park that this
yeah.
issue was at. Um, and with those types of things, there's nothing political about it. There's nothing. It's just kids who want volunteer. So there's no concerns with that. And it's just clear goodness. That's one example.
Yeah, I love that. And again, we're multidimensional. You know what? One of the reasons why, again, I do this podcast, I want to put out great content, give people ideas, inspiration for continue to do the right thing. Because ultimately, like you, I don't want people working 10, 12, 14-hour days. Sometimes we do, but it's not sustainable because we want to be able to enjoy things for ourselves, things with our family, also being in service to the community. Sometimes community is all somebody might have if they don't have, close family. So I appreciate that your company supports that. And we all need to stop and think and give back a little bit more because it's just the right thing to do for the village. This has been an amazing conversation. I'm so grateful for the network having introduced me to you, your company, the legacy that your family brings to this. But I would love to give you the mic one last time for any last thoughts or ways people can learn more about you or the company.
Oh, Jesus. Um, so I mean, throughout my career, it's really been about the people, whether it's working here, our customers are making sure that those relationships are aligned. It's not always somebody that you don't want to work with isn't necessarily a bad person. It's just the goals aren't aligned. So whether that's employees or customers or vendors, that's fair game. And business is business. You're not trying to slip anyone past someone, but keeping in mind that everyone you're dealing with is a person. They might work in a system that's extremely difficult to work within or work for, but that person's a person. So taking that perspective in any scenario kind of sets you out on the right course, whether it's a disciplinary scenario or a raw material issue or a customer complaint, anything that happens. If you're taking that perspective, you should be at least headed in the right direction.
And I love that perspective. At the end of the day, it's about humanity, our connection with humanity, and how we interact. Because life is complex, systems are complex. But I love that about you. It sounds like Yost Foods is an amazing company. I am so grateful to have had you on the show. And for listeners out there, if you want to learn more, we'll have all of his contact information in the show notes. But Ben, it's been a pleasure. I just want to say thank you so much. And I wish you, your family, your company continued success.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the time.